I felt like as soon as I got to understand the job, I get assigned to another one. And after being the president of the Federation, this is kind of simple. I'm halfway through my term, and and I feel that way again. It's like I'm finally starting, halfway through to get it. So I'd really like to tell everybody this has been an amazingly successful year at the Federation, and but just the spirit of Tikkun Olam, which is the rebuilding of the world, our work is never finished. We've done our best to keep the fire burning, led by our our staff. Try that again. We've done our best to keep the fire burning, thanks to our amazing staff led by Ben, and our wonderful volunteers led by our dedicated board of directors. I'd like to give all of them a hand. So I have the distinct honor tonight to introduce the Honorable Naval Lieutenant Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Mayor Pete is the Chief Executive of the City of South Bend. He took office in 2012 at the age of 29 and is responsible for the city workforce of over 1,000 employees and an annual budget of $380 million. It's just a little bit more than ours. Buttigieg was born in South Bend and attended St. Joseph High School. During his first term, Buttigieg established a 311 system for city services.
311.
That makes so much more sense. 311. So, and led a successful initiative to address 1,000 vacant and abandoned houses in 1,000 days, and established the first open data policy for the city of Indiana. In his second term, his administration completed the award-winning Smart Streets Initiative to transform the city's downtown streetscapes and launched the largest investment in parks and trails in the city's history. Buttigieg has been profiled by the New York Times and has been called the most interesting mayor you've never met, you've never heard of, by the Washington Post. As an officer in the U.S. Navy Reserve from 2009 to 2017, Buttigieg took a leave of absence to serve in Afghanistan during a 7-month deployment in 2014, earning the Joint Service Commendation Medal for his work in counterterrorism. A Rhodes Scholar, Buttigieg studied philosophy, politics, economics at Oxford, and has a degree of American History and Literature from Harvard College. He lives in a formerly vacant house he is restoring in the same neighborhood where he grew up with his fiancée Chasten Gelsman and their dog Truman. The mayor has been a steadfast supporter of the Jewish community, and having just returned from Israel, I'm sure we're all very interested in hearing what he has to say. So please join me in welcoming our mayor, Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
To spend a little bit of time in the community that has meant so much. I see so many faces here who have been longtime friends of South Bend, leaders in South Bend, and a few new faces here too, so I'm glad to have that opportunity. And in particular to share what has really been one of the most memorable trips I've ever had the privilege of taking. But before that, I do just want to thank you, because this is among the most active and energetic civic organizations we have. And I think at a moment when our national fabric is under a certain kind of strain, it becomes more important than ever for us to have other forms of fabric that pull us together. And I very much see that in the Jewish community in our area and with the Jewish Federation in particular. So much so that I should add that I let the organizers of this trip know that the main reason that I accepted the invitation was that I'd been urged to do so by my local Jewish Federation. I have been invited to a lot of interesting places, but as you know, the job of mayor is a very intimate, very local job. And so even though I love travel, and I love to see places that are different from my own, most of the time I can't say yes to these invitations, because the first rule I find in mayoral travel is always get back before they figure out that you're gone. But I also knew that as somebody who had not visited this country and who knew how important this relationship was, both to individuals that I care about in the community and to the community as a whole. And a moment when South Bend's rise and I think South Bend's recovery and rediscovery has very much been a function of our connection and relationship to the rest of the world. And that's been particularly true with some business relationships and investments that have had to do with Israeli business. That it was really time for me to see for myself. The trip was a very special one also because it was specifically geared toward mayors. And so the mayor of Dayton, Ohio, Dan Whaley, the mayor of Columbus, Ohio, Andy Ginther, and the mayor of West Palm Beach, Florida, Jerry Moyo, who, believe it or not, provided some of the earliest examples of policies in the 1990s that whose success became part of the inspiration for what we did with Smart Streets here in South Bend. So love or hate, you have West Palm Beach in part to thank for that. So it made an intimate but a really special group that was able to take a mayor's eye view of what we saw. I brought along the itinerary just because I need the memory aid a little bit because so much was packed into that trip. And I suppose in a way that's symbolic of the fact that so much is packed into this very small piece of land. It's almost a cliche, I gather, to say it for a first-time visitor, but I'll just say it. I was really struck by how compact the territory is. Places I see on the news, places I have read about in Scripture, places I have heard about in lore, that turn out to be no further apart from each other than Goshen is from Plymouth or South Bend from St. Joseph, Michigan. In particular, we had a chance, we felt it the whole time, but we had a helicopter trip, which I think the whole purpose of it was the one moment when the pilot could say, that over there is the sea and that over there is the border of the West Bank and in between is all we've got. And it really did help put it in perspective some things that just don't make the same kind of sense if you haven't seen them for yourself. Another thing that was very striking that I was not fully prepared for was the modernity, the global character, and the energy and the vitality and the diversity of the city of Tel Aviv. So our visit began there, a little bleary-eyed as you are when you first arrive. I found myself, in order to keep my blood pumping, went out for a quick jog before the program began, went up and down that strand in Tel Aviv and saw, in many ways, I felt like I was seeing the future. In a very specific way, I thought I was seeing the future because they have these electric scooters that I think are soon going to be finding their way. In fact, the same company that is behind the Line Bike in South Bend wants to introduce these here. And so I was taking very close notes on what did and did not seem to be working with the use of these scooters. They're coming our way soon. But also just in the vibrancy of that beachfront, the energy of it. You saw what it means to have a country that just about everybody there is intimately connected to at least two nationalities, Israeli, and then almost always another country, whether they were born there or have family there, from the US to Russia and Eastern Europe to increasingly Ethiopia and other places around not just the region but around the world. We benefited from a number of conversations with experts, and I won't kind of subject you to the blow by blow, but I want to mention a few that made a real impression. One of the first people to speak with us actually was a name that was very familiar, which is Dan Chuckman, who is now, I believe, a major in the military, and also offered just a brilliant exposition of some of what's happening in terms of the security conditions there. Obviously, I took a little selfish pride in letting all the mayors know that all roads lead to South Bend. Someone who had been originally born and educated here, seeing in that capacity was really special. I mentioned that the mayor's eye view is a little bit different, so actually one of the first and most compelling things that all of us had urgently asked to see, I probably should have said a little more about wanting to see the excavation of the city of David, but when they said, what do you want to see as a mayor, I started with the thing that was on the top of my mind, wastewater. This may or may not be a hot topic for most people who visit Israel, but for us, for any mayor, it's a big deal. So much of my job has to do with dealing with water. You're delivering water, you're removing water, water arrives in frozen form, then you're rearranging it. So we had a very special opportunity to visit the wastewater treatment It's next to, if you're very familiar with the country, it's next to an IKEA somewhere on the outskirts. And the sophistication of the processes there was very impressive. Obviously under some pressure in terms of the ability to gather water supply that we're not, but also doing a lot of things that are very similar to what we do in terms of the importance of organic resources. So they make sure that some of the byproducts of the wastewater treatment process are then recycled, brought out to the fields, and made to help literally help fertilize Israeli agriculture in a way that we're aspiring to do here in South Bend as well. So I enjoyed comparing notes on that. It was a seriously impressive achievement, even if that's a little wonky compared to the things that get more headlines. We were invited to visit an LGBT center that same day in the city of Tel Aviv. We met a very dynamic person who explained to us the complexity around civil and religious law, and also the way that, in many ways, certainly within the Middle East, that kind of equality and that kind of advancement has really been led from that community that's in Tel Aviv. We met that evening with someone from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who specialized in innovation and technology, and reminded me very much of some of the most exciting things happening in the startup community that I had seen in Silicon Valley, but happening with a very unique relationship with the state, which works and acts to promote the activities of the startup community in a way I hadn't ever seen happen at a national level. And it helped to explain why, when we had a chance to see for ourselves what was going on, it was much more energetic than I might have expected. In particular, we visited a startup called Zen City, which I've actually now put in touch with the South Bend Department of Innovation, because some of what they do, scanning social media in order to do what they call sentiment analysis, basically using computer programming to try to understand how people are thinking about an issue in ways that sometimes are more revealing than what you get when you go to traditional public meetings. So we don't always think about this, but there's a selection bias in just about any attempt you make to gather public opinion. The story was told of a place in Tel Aviv, a neighborhood, apparently it's a very hipster neighborhood in Tel Aviv, has the highest concentration of dog ownership of almost any city in the world. And a dog park was proposed, but the meeting to discuss it was held at a certain time when a certain group of people who, we in South Bend had a similar, I don't know if nobody's offended by this, not hopefully ever applied to anybody here. We call it Citizens Against Virtually Everything, Kate. So there were about 12 people showed up to this meeting, shouted it down, and this dog park was never built. It turned out by doing social media analysis, they discovered that the sorts of people who were available to show up at a meeting at that time didn't reflect the neighborhood at all. Actually, there were thousands of people who thought this was a great idea. And so that kind of attention to public opinion is something that cities around the world take interest in. And sure enough, when I was in Boston on Saturday for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, I ran into the CEO of that company who had been briefing us just 2 or 3 weeks earlier at their offices in Tel Aviv. Just a really impressive set of people here, and the intellect, but also the energy there was very special. We then visited the Rupin Academic Center. I don't know if anybody's seen this. It's a really impressive university or college facility that does a lot around health and agriculture that I actually would very much like to connect up with St. Mary's College, because their focus was on the health and education of women. And again, they're thinking about immigration and integration in just such a different way than we do here. Something that's very much driven the growth and perhaps in many ways even the survival of Israel, but is also being tested in some complex ways, as you have in particular with the arrival of an Ethiopian community, people who have more of a challenge integrating and bring sometimes health challenges that need to be addressed with a lot of intention. And then we had a fascinating meeting with somebody who I think reminded me quite a bit of myself. His name is Asaf Zamir. He is the deputy mayor of Tel Aviv, which is an elected position. He's, I think, my age exactly, or maybe a year apart, and is somebody who was elected on a platform, basically, for a party that was specifically geared toward making Tel Aviv more vibrant for young people. In fact, they're having a bit of an identity crisis in party because they're called something along the lines of Young People's Party, and he realized it gets into his late 30s, he might not qualify for something. So they're trying to figure out, as this party ages with its leadership, how it's going to fit in. But also talking about some of the challenges that went along with growth, some of the technological applications, much like my 311 call centers that we've set up. Sorry. done something that I very much want to aspire to do, which is in Tel Aviv, you have, I guess, a certain kind of identity card that goes with you as a city, just as we've created an ID card, a municipal ID card here in South Bend. But they've taken theirs and moved it into a digital format. And through the smartphone app that carries your ID card, are able to push information on everything from health alerts to the ability to quickly and easily register your kids for kindergarten. So it's become something with social and administrative benefits through technology, but also making a very inclusive pattern of growth. I am tempted to discuss the food, but I would make myself and everybody else here very hungry, and I would also probably be here all night because the food is extraordinary. But also just breaking bread, the tradition of breaking bread with a great many different people was another special part of the trip. And so I somewhat regretted leaving Tel Aviv because the restaurants, beginning with the breakfast, has anybody been to the Carlton Hotel? Anybody remember the breakfast? I would not be sad to find myself having breakfast there just about every day. But no sooner had we gotten the feel for Tel Aviv than it was time to move on. The original plan that Wednesday was for us to take a helicopter up to the north and visit a hospital where Syrian refugees, among others, are being treated. Unfortunately, there was a decision earlier that night by Iranian-backed forces in Syria to go ahead and shell that region, which thankfully didn't lead to casualties on the ground, but did mean that our host decided it wasn't the best day to take us up there. I thought it would have been fine, maybe a little more exciting. But it was also a reminder of the kinds of pressures that people live under. I have to say I admire in particular the way in which those pressures were not allowed to dominate people's lives. They were taken seriously, but they were not something that stopped people in their tracks. I hope Americans can learn from this, because I think in many ways the purpose of terrorism, even more than to harm you, is to become your priority. And while there's a certain emotional satisfaction in saying things like, this has changed us and we'll never be the same, after 9/11, for example, I'm not sure I want to give somebody the power to change us, that we would never be the same, through an act of terrorism. And so seeing the way, as somebody who knows a little bit about what it's like to be under a rocket attack, but has a hard time imagining squaring that experience with that going to the grocery or trying to have a normal life for kids. It was a reminder of the different approaches that exist and the importance of deciding that normalcy is something that can only be taken from you by your consent. Despite that very sobering security reality, we were able to continue very much enjoying the trip, which then led us to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a place that I could not have quite prepared for the emotional power of seeing. Again, the first thing we notice is that it's quite a bit smaller than you might have guessed. If you think about it in biblical terms, or even just based on what we see on CNN, you might imagine the Western Wall to be bigger than this room. I'm not sure it is. And so when you see that, it has a certain effect on you. When you touch it, it has another effect on you. And I still haven't figured out how to put that into words. But also having a chance, in keeping with my own faith tradition, to see the Stations of the Cross and some of the sites that I've read about in my life in Jerusalem was extraordinary. I also felt an unexpected kinship just on the basis of my Mediterranean background. So my father's from the island of Malta, which is not that far off. And I've sometimes been told by my mother that the only explanation for my sense of direction is that it's Maltese. So Malta was built according to the principles of medieval cities, a lot of curving streets and high walls and that sort of thing. And that might be why in a place like South Bend, I'm basically helpless without the benefit of a great deal of memory. And any place other than South Bend, I really need that phone to figure out where I'm even on the grid system, which you would think the grid system makes it really easy. But sure enough, in the old city, when I went out to grab a gift to take home, and I was trying to find my way to the other gate, somehow the mysterious logic of the old city made perfect sense in my internal GPS, and I was able to get through there just fine. We had dinner with the Deputy Permanent Representative for the United Nations, another Israeli diplomat who's very involved also in the relationship with North American countries. I'd seen him and some of his colleagues a couple days earlier because actually in a great bipartisan moment, by coincidence, Governor Holcomb was also in Israel, leading a trade delegation for a major agriculture conference there. And so we arranged for me to sort of crash the party and have dinner with him and his group. So it's the same diplomats who were dealing with him on Tuesday, we're dealing with us mayors on Thursday. It was a good opportunity to talk about the relationship, but also to express a little bit of concern on the part of mayors about the extent to which support for Israel has shown some risk of becoming a partisan cause, which I think would be unfortunate for both countries. There was obviously a lot of anticipation about the arrival of the Vice President, which happened a few days after we left. We took the opportunity just to remember how important it's been over the years that this has not been viewed as a Democrat versus Republican question, and how important it would be for it to remain that way. I remember as a student seeing events where there would be a keynote by, I think at the time it was Tom Daschle and Trent Lott. I don't know if there's ever been an event that both Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer would both speak at. But if there was, I hope it would be something like this, where we can take the partisan piece out of it. Of course, I'd like to believe that always is true of international relations and security, but in today's environment in our country, obviously we know that's not always possible. So I don't know that I've been able even now to distill all of the things I saw into a single lesson or set of lessons. Except that I came away, first of all, with a renewed appreciation of the extent to which seeing is understanding. I've always, or at least seeing helps to erase misunderstanding. That's to some extent been my experience as mayor, that things I might think I know well on paper, I don't quite know until I've had a chance to see them with my own eyes. But it strikes me that many of the people I've known over the years who speak with the most certainty about what must be done in the Middle East, often not necessarily the people who live there, or even people who spend very much time there. Because partly I have a desire not to be somebody like that I realized it was so important for me to go and at least have seen something for myself. Another was a sense of the resilience of the Jewish people at large, something that was a lesson driven home maybe more than anything by the haunting visit to Yad Vashem, which was something we did toward the end of our visit. Something that anytime you look at history, and again, this is not a political address, but I have to say, as we read again occasionally of people being referred to as animals, as we hear about situations where apparently people are sometimes being divided from their children by being told that they're being taken to take a shower. There are some rhymes in history that we need to learn from, especially as some of the darkest chapters, not just for the Jewish people, but in human history, begin to pass out of living memory. No one who was an adult in a position of authority at the time is able to educate us. We're so thankful for the survivors who are in our community to this day who help to educate us, but also thankful for the education that goes on at a place like Yad Vashem that really asks you to do something that's hard to do, which is walk through a very dark place at a very dark time, but to know that it was just people. The people you admire and the people who horrify you have this feature in common, and when you get up close, they're just people. And it's a reminder of what's at stake in the way that people we know and the people we don't are behaving today, whether it's in our political life or outside of the political space. And yet, as wrenching as that experience was, the final experience you had was one of hope. You come up on that slope, the sun is shining, and you see life on the other end of that dark tunnel. And that was a very big part of what I took away, a sense that people, both uniquely because of the experiences there, but also just as a very human quality, are determined to find ways toward peace, toward understanding, toward growth, and to the extent that we as a community can remain connected with other communities around the world, and in particular some of the communities I had the privilege of seeing on this trip, I think we'll be better off. So that's what I had to say. I know we were going to try to allow a little time for questions. Hopefully I haven't gone over too long. And we'll be happy if there are any questions or observations from within the group, certainly be happy to hear.
Do you think you'll be implementing something from the wastewater learning?
Potentially. You know, one of the most, in addition to just the, I'm so glad the first question about wastewater. I didn't know I could get you all there to the mayor's way of looking at the world so quick. I am going to ask some questions about the techniques and technologies, because like us, they have anaerobic digesters. I promise not to nerd out too much, but they have anaerobic digesters, which produce materials in terms of gases that can be used and recycled and reused. Now they have the additional problem that they had to build for security reasons a concrete casing around this basically giant methane balloon that absorbs some of the gases that come from the process. Other than that part, we have a very similar intention here. Our public works director calls it the poop to power program. I'm not sure if I can officially call it that. We're actually already in the process of learning how to convert some of the gases that are generated by that process to go into our trash truck. I don't know if you know this, but solid waste trucks in the city of South Bend now run on compressed natural gas. And so I want to find out whether some of the technologies that we saw there are comparable to ours, or whether there's anything we can learn by adapting to some of the things. Okay. The other thing they did a very good job over there was education. So as we were there was a school group there, and I got the impression that just about every school kid, at least in Tel Aviv, would have a chance to see that plant. And it's probably not something when I'm sure there's some teachers in the room, you're thinking, what's the field trip going to be today, or this year? I'm not sure that ever made it into the top 10 in the art museum. But people got to learn, especially if it's incumbent on us to view not just the delivery of water, but also its removal as a scarce capability that costs us, that takes energy, and it takes time. We just got the ribbon today on the Fire Station 4 on the west side of South Bend, and it's the first time we've had a LEED certified facility owned by the city, which is an environmental certification. Part of which was earned by having solar power applied to it, but part of it because the wastewater, actually, they set up gardens and absorption in the soil that just, the cheapest way to deal with wastewater is for it never to hit the system in the first place. And so it's gathering, in this case, stormwater, and keeping it out of our pipes. Things like this, I know they're unsexy and unglamorous, but they're important. And so I'm going to challenge our Public Works Department to see what the technologies are there and see if there's anything else we can learn. But I'm definitely going to try to find some excuse to get more kids to see it for themselves so they understand what their state does for them.
Thank you.
What was the best thing you ate while you were there?
Back to the food, thank you. There's a dish called the St. Peter's fish. It was brought, and I feel like I know fish. Like I said, I'm Maltese. My people do fish. Some of the same fish, I think, from the same sea. But there's a way of doing it. They just fried the whole thing. But it came out with this amazing flavor, and I'm pretty sure the fish was living a very happy life just a few hours before. So it was very fresh. So that was quite an experience. I should also add that we had not just the meals, of course, that were very special. And as somebody who I'll confess is very partisan to some foods that would not be available to you in Israel, I didn't miss a thing. But also our very last meal there was just as the Shabbat was beginning, and so we were able to participate in that with a group that hosted us in their home, and understanding kind of the custom that attended the beginning of the meal was something that I think put us in a good frame of mind for preparing to return home. If you get me thinking about the food too much, I'm in trouble. All right, Sherry. By the way, Sherry, if you don't know her, is our outreach director. She works with many community groups, including Faith Leaders Roundtable that we organized. So she is at your service, just like I am. You can put a face with a name now if you've ever heard of Sherry. Yes, Tom?
Did you see anything along the promenade in Tel Aviv when you were running that we might incorporate along our riverway?
Actually, yes. I'm glad you mentioned that. So one of the impressive things about that facade has got so many features along it. And one thing you may know about Aaron Perry, who directs our South Bend Venues Parks and Arts program, is he's always looking for new features to be added. So there are more and more things. For example, there was a lot of body weight kinetic workout equipment. I tried this push-up contraption. It was pretty cool. And the best thing about it was you saw people of all ages. This wasn't just for the, for the young, listening joggers who would go by. But really something that kids to senior residents, people were able to use. There was sort of an elliptical machine without a machine, and it was all mechanical. I'm trying to remember, some very interesting pieces of public art, the upside down fiberglass fellow. It was pretty interesting. Remember that one? And it reminded me of some of the qualities of great public art and great parks features in general, which is that they arouse a sense of play, even if they're functional in some way. They give you that kind of sense of play that brings people together. And I think, I suspect, maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but in a place as diverse and in some ways as challenged as Israel, anything that reminds us of the universal qualities, like play, something that's the same for every person and every kid and every grown-up, has a very healthy property to it. So that was very memorable. And I'm definitely going to send a couple pictures back of things I hope we might see here too. And always eager for suggestions. If I miss one on my admittedly not as impressively long as I should say jog. Probably have time for one more. Okay, in the high sign there. Going once. I should mention that we didn't get to spend much time on it, but in the email inviting us to come, there was also a mention that many members of this body were interested in some questions about jobs and economic growth in the community. So I know I'm here mainly to discuss the trip, but just for a 90-second version of that, so you're up to speed. What we're finding is that job growth is happening in more different parallel ways than it ever has in our city. And in order to stimulate more job growth, the most important thing for us is connectivity. Digital connectivity, so that's why our emerging data center is so important. Some of the people who come to work in the data analytics industry have moved to South Bend. I think we always say, to South Bend from places like Boston, places I always thought were cooler than us, have decided to come to South Bend, partly to work in this economy. Second is intellectual property, so the kind of work being developed at our universities and colleges historically was not always encouraged to be commercialized, but now that's happening. Third, physical connectivity. That's why we were very excited to have American Airlines return to South Bend for the first time since 2003. Now we have every major airline serving every major hub coming to South Bend with these Dallas and Charlotte flights in addition to the others. But also that human connectivity that is really based on relationships. This is why we think, for example, as we figure out how to connect ourselves to Chicago a little more quickly with the South Shore Rail, or future routes for the airport, that we find actually what's most important is that a relationship leads somebody to move somewhere to consider a place. No matter how much we do around the numbers on a page around land, labor, utilities, taxes, and all that stuff, it all matters. But what we're finding most makes the difference when I ask somebody who has moved here with their family, or somebody who's chosen our area as a site for a job, for a company or to create jobs. It's really the kind of community, and usually it's somebody that you introduce them to our city. And so that's why I don't want to miss the opportunity, just as my time meeting closes, knowing that I'm addressing a group of people who have family members, friends, associates all over the region, the country, and perhaps the world, that you will sort of keep South Bend in your equation and allow me informally to enlist you as kind of ambassador for our region. Because the days when you could just imagine all that happens in this city is just happening within our city limits, those days are long gone, and we're going to rise or fall based on our relationships to the rest of the world. You are very much an engine for that. You already are, so I thank you for it, and I'm preaching to the choir. But I do want to let you know that that's only going to become more valuable as we go. Thank you again for the opportunity to join you. Thank you for encouraging me to take this trip. I'm so glad that I did, and look forward to seeing you in the city. Mistake of putting Mayor Pete first, and that's a tough act to follow. So now I get to bore you all with a Federation report. This is our annual meeting, so I would be
State of the Union, so to speak, of the Federation. And I'm happy to say it's almost all good news. So I thank you for celebrating with us. This is our 73rd annual meeting of the Jewish Federation of St. Joseph Valley, which means in just 2 years we're going to be celebrating our 75th. And the board and the staff have already started talking about how we can make 75 a big and exciting year. The Federation has already had a very successful year, and I want to thank our Federation President, Dave Ravitch, and our Board of Directors for just displaying outstanding and unwavering commitment to not just the Federation, but to our community. So thank you very much to all of you. And our community is just so blessed to have so many people willing to give of their time. And while we do a lot of time talking about fundraising, I want you to know how important giving of time is as well. Our volunteers make our campaign and our film festival and our older adult services and so much more of what we do not only possible, but successful. And our volunteers, they do everything from run our food pantry, they drive our seniors to doctor's appointments, they engage sponsors for events, they teach our classes, if you're in Forever Learning, you know what I mean, and they help us plan meaningful programming all year long. In particular, there's some volunteers I'd really like to single out just for huge amounts of success this year. So I want to thank Sherry Albert and Steve Lauder for our most successful film festival in history. I want to thank Christine Carrillo for championing our food pantry, but she also, along with Marlene Hollenkamp, chaired our first ever Super Bowl event, Tailgate, which was also a nice new event that we all enjoyed. I want to thank Marcia Brook and Maggie Goldberg, who work with the Women's Endowment Fund, and they work, if you're not familiar with them, deliver grants to worthy causes throughout the community and abroad. And it's just an amazing program that allows us to give not just within the Federation, but as kind of a circle of giving, where the women themselves who invest get to decide where that money goes. And if you're not yet a member of the Jewish Women's Endowment Fund, it's something to consider. And of course, I know there's lots of members of it here in this room, and you can always talk to them. I also want to acknowledge all volunteers who helped the Federation, Temple, and Sinai achieve our challenge grant with the Harold Grinspoon Foundation Life and Legacy Initiative. So my deepest thanks also to Rabbi Komponents for being such a great partner on a recent community food and arts Israel trip. It was a phenomenal trip, and I certainly look forward to planning one again in the future along with Rabbi Friedland to join us and make an even more successful and even more exciting trip so the people who went this year have a reason to come back again. So if you haven't heard about it, there's also people here you can talk to. Our 2018 campaign continues to run through the end of August. We are currently 91% towards our goal, and we only have 2 months left. If you have not yet gotten in your 2018 pledge, it is not too late, and it is essential to get it in as soon as possible. The demands on our Jewish Family Services providing food, guidance, and emergency aid to Jews right here in the Greater South Bend and our community members in Southern Michigan has increased exponentially over the past 10 years. This can seem intimidating and to many people, but I want to quote Rabbi Terfun's adage from Pirkei Avot, which I'm going to quote as soon as I turn my page. You're not required to finish your work, yet neither are you permitted to desist from it. Please don't desist from helping those in need. If you have not made your 2018 pledge, or you already have, and you want to make a greater impact right here at home, please consider directing a gift to our Jewish Family Services. If you feel strongly about our overseas work with the impoverished Jews in the former Soviet Union, Africa, and South America, then also consider donating your Federation pledge to the Jewish Joint Distribution Committee. Those are just 2 small aspects of where your Federation dollars go. I was raised to believe that if Jews did not help themselves, did not help our fellow Jews, Most likely no one else would. We depend on our community's sense of tzedakah and generosity to make sure we can continue to help those in need and provide services in the community. There should be copies of our annual report around, and inside is a pie chart provided that shows you a table of where all of your dollars go. In these changing times, people want to be more and more aware of how philanthropic dollars are spent. It is important to know that the dollars you donate go to causes you care about. Please consider designating your gift to go to what matters to you most. Every gift helps us continue our important work. Putting food in our local food pantry, helping a Michiana family keep their electricity on during a time of need, providing emergency assistance to Jewish flood victims in Houston and Puerto Rico, helping a newly immigrated Ethiopian family start a business in Israel with an interest-free loan, or delivering food to impoverished Holocaust survivors in Eastern Europe are just a small fraction of the ways we use your donations. Our donors should feel very proud of the enormous positive impact that you make on this world. I know I'm proud of you as our donors. All of the Federation's success this past year would not have been possible without our board of directors and our staff. A little later, we will be voting in our board slate, and to all our existing and exiting board members, I want to thank you for countless and sometimes thankless hours you put in just because you care. We are blessed to have you as our leaders. To my staff, I truly believe that I have the best team there is in all of the federations. Lizzie Fagan, Lisa Gerber, and Nancy Kennedy work tirelessly to balance their varied demands and needs of Jews all over Michigan. Emily Benedicts, who keeps all the hidden gears of the Federation machine going. And she's on the front lines with everything, from the campaign to finances to our website, social media pages, and newsletters. Samara Gold, our kitchen manager. Samara continues to amaze us with her food, and if you missed it, she did a truly fabulous job catering our Life and Legacy my reception at the during the film festival. It was just outstanding. I also want to thank Monica Fred Wayne, and she continues to put together educational and recreational programs with passion and dedication. I, of course, want to also thank a few people, someone who can't be here tonight, but Bob Pfefferman. You know, everyone knows Bob, of course, and he's in Israel right now, which is why he's not here. And he's actually working on getting me a speaker for our campaign kickoff event, so I wish him luck on that. But I don't know, he really works tirelessly just to reach out to the non-Jewish community, to bring messages of peace and understanding. And he was one of the key people working with Mayor Pete's office that made that trip for him possible. So I really do want to thank him. I also want to thank Corinne Wasserman. So Corinne Wasserman is, of course, our hardworking shlichah, and her boundless energy and enthusiasm is contagious, and thank God. And this year, we are so blessed that she has agreed to stay a second year. I also want to thank, I want to thank my staff, but this is my one chance to really, tell about them in public. Dan Cosman, our facilities associate. He does more than you can possibly imagine to maintain the beauty of our campus and improve, in many ways, the beauty of our campus. Of course, I also want to thank our new administrative assistant, Sherry Albert. She's proven to be a valuable member of the team, and I really appreciate her. Finally, I would like to thank Karen Dwyer. history teacher, sometimes my conscience, my right hand, and definitely my friend. Saying thank you doesn't seem adequate enough. While you will be retiring from a job, you will forever remain a part of our Jewish community family. Thank you. We are eternally grateful. And now we're going to move on with the agenda, so let's see who's next.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jason Schwartz. I am new to the community. I've been here a little over a year and a half, and I'm a board member of the Federation. Before I begin my remarks about the partnership, I wanted to thank three people for the reason why I'm standing up here today. First, I'd like to thank Ben for the opportunity to join the board and be involved in the community. I'd like to thank Dave Ravitch for the opportunity to learn about partnership. In the back of the room, you can see we have the big billboard up that says Partnership Together. But most importantly, I'd like to thank Rowan Kelly, who is a former staff member here at the Federation. Yeah, Rowan! If it wasn't for Rowan's tireless effort focusing on the Young Adults Division and reaching out to me, being new and not knowing anyone in this community, I wouldn't be standing up here. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to join the board. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be part of the partnership and really feel welcome and recognizing that South Bend and the Greater Michiana region is my home. So, Ron, thank you. So now you see partnership is the next topic on the agenda. And for me, when I joined the board and trying to understand where really are the dollars going, I was somebody who would sit in the budget committee and say, why are we giving such a large portion of the dollars that we are getting and giving them to this partnership? What is it? And trying to really figure it out, I had some conversations with Terry, I had some conversations with Ben and Dave, and they told me about this trip. So partnership partnered with the Young Adults Division nationwide, and I was actually part of the first Young Adults trip ever as part of the partnership over to Israel. So it was made up of our community, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Fort Worth, Texas, Omaha, Nebraska, and so there was 10 Americans. We partnered with Budapest, Hungary, and there were 8 folks from Budapest, and then our partners in the Western Galilee. And I sort of joked about young adults and listening to Mayor Pete, recognizing that I'm actually even older than he is. I was the oldest member of this trip. Typically, most of the folks were in their late 20s and early 30s. At 42, I sort of felt a little bit on the outskirts. And being the only member who was there by himself, each other community sent 2 or 3 people. The first day was, all right, what am I doing? How do I fit in? Never been to Israel before, and what does it all mean? And so I was very fortunate to meet with Efrat, who is head of partnership in Israel, and was able to go to Nahariya and to go to Akko. And it's not typically places that are hotspots on the map of when you go to Israel, you want to go. You want to go to the wall, you want to go to Masada. You want to really experience Tel Aviv and everything that you see and hear about Israel on TV. And so you land in Ben Gurion and you take the train up to Nahariya, and you get there and it's a community sort of very much like South Bend. It's a diverse community, and it's a building community, but it does not have the wealth that you would expect, and would not be a place that you say, I want to go there. And I sort of felt a kinship as I got off the train and I sort of got involved and went up the first night. And I recognized, very much like Mayor Pete said, you don't realize the importance of really living together amongst a true partnership. You have folks that are Christian, you have Muslims, you have the Druids, you have the Jews, and everyone is living there together in harmony. You know, what you see on CNN and what you read in the newspaper about all the animosity, and for those of us who have followed Israel and through the history from the Six-Day War through the Intifada, you really truly don't believe that people can actually live together harmoniously. And it's sort of, you take that step back and you step away from being an American and you recognize, being a Jew, what it is to be in this holy land amongst everyone. And so we went out to the Lebanese border and we met with, the border captain there, and you go up into the tower and you look across and, you're 150 yards away and Lebanon's got guns pointed at your country, and you're thinking to yourself, people live under this constant fear and that they don't allow it to control them. Mayor Pete, made a lot of comments about 9/11 and being in the military, not allowing fear to dominate your life. And unfortunately, over the last 18 months, as we are being divided as a country through a lot of political rhetoric, you see how people truly do it together. And as we made our way through Akko, I was very fortunate that Ben and the Federation had the trip, had their food trip, and I was able to step away from the group and I was able to see a bunch of you, and we had lunch on a very rainy day, and it was a delicious lunch, and I had the opportunity, Ben afforded me to give a few comments. And what I would say is, as you are thinking about making your gifts every year to the Federation, you are thinking about making your pledges, partnership is a wonderful way to give back. Two of the major programs that we actually help fund, one is a pre-K program, and another one is a special needs after-school program. And as someone who has been involved in the special needs community for 30 years, that was the highlight of the trip for me. We were able to go into this program and work with these special needs kids between the ages of about 14 and about 19. And all of the volunteers were kids. And they were able to see past the developmental delays. They were able to see past the wheelchairs. And they were able to see past the fact that these kids didn't have the verbal skills, and just see them as human beings. And really begin to give back, and to know that the dollars that we have here, that we are sending over to help fund these extremely important programs, to really enrich not only the lives of the volunteers, but enrich the lives of these students who just want to be seen as people, was extremely moving and important for me. And I hope that's something as a federation that not only we are able to continue, but we even take a look at our own community and we're able to see past some of the differences, whether they are developmental, whether they are physical, whether they are emotional, and recognize that people are just people. And the last story that I'm going to share is we had one night off, and so I was able to go with the group from Haifa. And we went to the German colony, and we went down, and for those of you who don't know, I came down with a seafood allergy earlier this year. I ended up in the ER, and had a crazy seafood allergy after eating seafood my whole life. And so, you're very cognizant of, okay, I'm carrying this EpiPen now, I need to be careful what I eat. And everywhere in Haifa, shrimp was on the menu, seafood was on the menu. And so we found a restaurant, a Muslim restaurant actually, and the girl spoke perfect English, and I was a little shaky, I'm looking at the menu, she's like, what's wrong? I said, I have this seafood allergy, I'm sort of really frightened to eat a lot of things that I'm not cooking myself. She goes, don't worry, everything will be fine, come in. And so she goes in the kitchen, she says something in Arabic, and we sit down, I have this wonderful meal. The girl's probably 22, 23 years old. At the end of the meal, she comes over the table, she goes, let me see your hand. I'm thinking to myself, what do you need to see my hand for? I'm not married, I understand. I'm going home in a couple of days. And she goes, no, let me see your hand. And so she takes my hand, she turns it over, and she puts her fingers on my wrist, and she checks my pulse, and she said, see, I promised you would be okay. And I sort of chuckled and I laughed, and the group that I was with laughed. And you hear about all these divisions, and here's this girl who wanted to make sure at the end of the meal to know that I was okay, to know that she had taken care of me, and we had this wonderful, and it was fantastic. And so I took away from the trip, if I was 20 years younger, I may have made Aliyah, I may have gone to Nafaria or Akko, and I may have never come home. And now I have this very strong partnership with people from all over the world that I never would have had the opportunity to meet if I had not come to South Bend a year and a half ago. If Dave and Ben didn't take me out last summer and say, there are these wonderful opportunities, all you need to do is raise your hand and ask, and people are willing to take the time so you can learn and understand and hopefully give back to the community. So I want to thank both of them. I want to thank Rowan for the opportunity to stand up here. I want to offer all of you, if you want to learn about partnership, if you want to understand what we're doing in the Western Galilee, please feel free to pull me aside. There's something that I wrote in the newsletter that went out that everyone would have gotten last week. There's a great grappa facility. It's the only grappa facility in all of Israel. I brought back a bottle of grappa. Anybody who wants to try some, give me a call, send me an email. I would gladly have a shot with you, and we can talk about the wonderful opportunities. So thank you. I don't want to take any more time. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Jason. Shalom, everyone. I'm Karim Wasserman, and I'm proud to be your Israeli emissary, or in Hebrew, Shlicham, for this year, and I'm happy to say for next year too. 2 minutes to tell you about my work. And as you know, Israelis we like to talk. So it will take me about 5 minutes, just getting mad everything. Instead of reading the list of everything I do, that you can read in the annual report, I thought I would tell you a couple of stories that will help you to understand what I do. As you know, I'm teaching in the religious school of Temple Bethel and Sinai Synagogue. One of my favorite stories has to do with a field trip I organized for my students at Temple Bethel. One day, Brazil Lerman invited me to see a beautiful exhibit of the Beit Yaakov High School about Jewish history. Since I loved the exhibit, I decided to bring my Sunday school students. When we were there, we saw a display which was about Israel. When they saw the picture of Herzl, they all jumped in excitement and said, "We know him! That's what you taught us about last week." At that point, I understood why I'm here. First, I recognized what a privilege it is for me to be here in your community and to teach about Israel and Zionism. And second, I was so honored for the opportunity to bring the youth of the community to bring everybody together. And finally, I never thought that my students will see Herzl, the guy with the beard, and they think of me. The second story is about my work doing Israel advocacy. As many of you know, I have a presentation called My Israeli Story that I have given on 30 occasions in high schools, on college campuses, and churches. One time I was giving my talk at Penn High School. At the end of my presentation, I talked about the current situation in Syria and the humanitarian aid that Israel provides. What I didn't know is that in one class, there was a young girl who is a Syrian refugee. Well, it was difficult for her to see the images of the horror that she had escaped. She was very impressed with what Israel is doing to help the Syrians. And she was glad that I brought the attention to the tragic situation in Syria to her friends. At the end, she even thanked me for the presentation. As an Israeli, I'm very proud that I have these opportunities to show a different side of my country that we don't see in the news usually. I have many more stories to share with you, so it will be my honor to be here a second year in the community and to continue work here. Thank you very much.
It is my pleasure tonight to introduce the slate of officers and board of directors. Normally the chairman would do this, but in our family, when Harvey can't do it, he doesn't speak. So I have chosen one. For president is David Ravitch. David.
Sorry.
For Vice President-elect and President-elect, Lisa Lerman. For Vice President, Mona Meadow. Vice President Christine Carrillo. Christine is in Israel, so she's not here. Treasurer Mike Kirsch. Secretary Sora Stein. And immediate past president Terry Feldbaum. Nominated to serve on the board of directors for a 2-year term of office ending June 2020, Mara Betcher. Shani Kramer. Lisa Levin. Jennifer Schwartz. Ellen Chamish. Board members whose terms of office expire in June 2019 are Marlene Hollenkamp, Jason Schwartz,
These are the people I was thinking before.
I would like to,
You can pass down to Dave.
oh, I will pass it on to Dave.
Again?
Yes, I will pass it on to Dave.
This is the lady who asked me to do this the first time.
Right.
Thank you. I'd like to accept the nomination to approve the slate of officers as presented. Second? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Sure. Motion carries. One more quick piece of business. You probably saw in the email, we want to make one small change to our policies. Bylaws? Yeah, well, I'll say it while you're sitting down. I'm sorry. Please sit down. And thank you, everybody. We would like to change our quorum from 10 to be half the serving members. And the reason is sometimes we have, less than 20 actual serving members on our board if somebody leaves during the middle of the target quorum. So I'd like a motion to accept that as presented. Simon? Second? Okay. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. What's next? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That's why I had that piece of paper before. So I'd like to acknowledge our outgoing board members, Bill Patton, Jamie Brooks, and Shelley Friel, if you could come up.
Jamie was unable to join us, but we've traditionally over the last years given either an important book or an important movie. And anyone who was at our film festival last year really enjoyed a film about Israeli cuisine. And we've decided to give that exact movie to our
annually awards both graduate and undergraduate scholarships to Jewish students in our area. Craig and Carol Capson Scholarship helps undergraduate students attend a university, college, or technical institute in Indiana based on motivation, merit, and financial need. The Lillian and Harvey Rowland Fund provides scholarships to students planning to attend college whose parents are either active in the Jewish community and/or contributors to the Jewish Federation, and is awarded to applicants attending IU who have demonstrated academic achievement and financial need. The Neil and Leah Silver Advanced Degree Scholarship provides support for Jewish students to attend an accredited university graduate program and not limited to the state of Indiana. It is now my pleasure to call up the following students, and I've been asked to say please hold your applause till the end, and maybe stay up here for your photo op. This year, the Capson Scholarship is being presented to 3 students, Maggie Cronk, Naomi Friel, and Andrew Wayne. Please come up. The Rowland Scholarship is awarded to David Safer. You're supposed to stay up for your photo ops.
We'll get it out.
Okay, that's fine.
We'll get it out.
The Neil and Leah Silver Advanced Degree Scholarship is being presented to Nicole Wayne and Regina Rosenblatt. Are we going to take pictures later?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lizzie, and tonight I'm going to share with you who is the recipient of our Robert Slyman Leadership Award. This individual, the purpose of this award is to recognize a person in our community who has been a very active leader in the Jewish world, and this person not only in the Jewish world, but in the non-Jewish world as well, so I will start with that. So this individual, some of her accomplishments include volunteering as a room mom throughout the years in her children's classrooms as they were growing up. She has been the catering chair for the school that her children attended in elementary school for their largest fundraiser, their art fundraiser. She's acted as a substitute teacher in her children's education, again in elementary education. While she has been doing all that, she was simultaneously volunteering at the Ronald McDonald House at Memorial Hospital, which provides overnight accommodations and food for families of hospitalized children. In the Jewish world, the accomplishments are longer, so bear with me. She served on the Sisterhood Board of Sinai Synagogue and has been a past president. She has helped coordinate meals for grieving families. She has served on Sinai's Board of Directors. She has both taught at Sinai's Feast, which is the Family Education at Sinai Today program on Shabbat. She was also the principal of this program. And just on a personal note, when she was principal, we were, the students in the school, they were putting on some kind of play for either the Torah portion of the week or maybe it was for a holiday. And the standards of this individual individual is quite high, and she very much wanted our children to put on a performance that was capable of going to Broadway. So, needless to say, it upped the game. Didn't make it to Broadway, but who knows? So, at the Federation, this individual has been a committed and generous supporter of both cash and in-kind donations for the Jewish Family Service Food Pantry. It's really helped sustain our pantry. Is currently the chair of the Jewish Family Service Food Pantry Committee, which is in charge of fundraising, education, and promotion of our food pantry. She has been on the Federation's Board of Directors since 2015 and currently serves on the Executive Board as co-vice president. She is chair for the Federation's Allocation Committee, is an active member of Federation's Partnership Committee, which we heard so beautifully from Jason, and was the driving force, along as the co-chair with Marlene Hollenkamp, for the Federation's Tailgate Super Bowl Sunday fundraiser. Now, on a personal level, this individual's family describes this woman as a loving and dedicated wife and mother who has been supportive of her daughters and husband in every possible way over the years. I can be a testament to that, as two of our children have the same age and almost the same birth dates as this person's daughters. And as her husband says, in his humble opinion, she is just the best. So, if you've not guessed already, this year's Robert Simon Leadership Award goes to the indomitable Christine Carrillo. Bird is in Israel, so she will have to hear. Oh, it's taped. Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to be the person who's honored as to provide the gift of the annual Spirit of Federation Award from the Schwach family. This, by way of the behest of the Schwach family in 2013, especially their three sons, Terry, Ricky, and Rodney. The Betty and Sam Schwach Spirit Federation Award was created and was first given in 2014. And in fact, as I recall, 2014, the winner of that award may well have been Doug Barkins. And Doug has with us tonight. So Doug, glad to see you. And life has lived on long beyond his dentistry, so it's amazing stuff. How much you've done for us. Anyhow, with a person of similar expansive spirit as Doug, we recognize tonight, as the award calls for, a person for their selfless giving of time, treasure, and talent to the larger Jewish community. And I think that would be true of this person I'm thinking of, and we're about to recognize. So, it is normally the case that we want to recognize someone by way of this award whose engagement with our larger community, not merely the Federation community, but the larger Jewish community of South Bend, for that matter, now that our Federation community reaches all the way out to Bend Harbor. It means that this is a person of tremendous energy, spirit, enthusiasm, and someone who we've already heard from tonight. But it is the case that Schwachs have wanted to stress that it was the personal commitment, the dedication, and leadership to the Jewish Federation of St. Joseph Valley, and then the larger Jewish community beyond it, who is to be recognized. The person I'm speaking of tonight is someone who served as a member of the Board of Directors from 1978 to 1981, 1984 to 1987, who was the head of the annual Jewish Welfare Campaign in 1986 and also again in 1987, who was vice president of the board from 1995 to 1998, and again from 2006 to 2009 when I was serving as the president of the Federation. And she served as president from 2009 to 2011. And that person we're about to recognize is Ina Rosenberg. I'd like you to give her a round.
very honored for this award. It was not a surprise because Irv knew that if I got a surprise, I would be really upset. Because in our family, I'm the one that's in control. Truthfully, this award is for all of you too, because without all of your help, your volunteering and all the committees and your cash that we depend upon to make sure that our federation runs well. So this award, I'm really very grateful, but it's your award too. Thank you.
Congrats.
Of course, my first time speaking, I have to be fashionably late. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Emily Benedict. I'm the Communications Associate. Ben and I talked about me doing this presentation a couple months ago, and I, of course, did not hesitate to agree. And for those of you that do know me, you know the fact that I'm outside the kitchen and speaking to you is a major reflection of how much I adore Karen. So, I have no clue what you could say in 3 minutes to honor 36 years of dedication to us. When I started 6 years ago, I knew Karen had already been here for 30. I'm sorry. Which was mind-boggling to me. And there was no way I could have grasped how significant that 30 years was, both to the Federation and the community as a whole. I don't think you can grasp that unless you know Karen and have seen her in action here. Whether it's knowing all the names of the people who have lived in that one house on the south side since 1982, who is related to who, the trend of someone's pledge, or just knowing who we need to check up on because we haven't seen them in a while. Her knowledge of our community is more than many of us have about our extended families. Karen once told me that Bernie Matkow, the Federation executive who hired her, picked her because he wanted someone who didn't know anyone in the community. Someone who had a clean slate and no preset opinions. Yet ironically, today Karen knows us better than we know ourselves. Random talks about doing a campaign event, reaching out to a volunteer, were far more important. The right way to connect with community members in times of joy and sorrow would regularly end up being a learning experience for the entire staff. And that focus on people is the reason why people always seek her first. It never fails that when she's on vacation, someone will call and be willing to wait for her return versus having someone else help. At first, it seemed like it was just a lack of familiarity with the new people, but really it's because of who Karen is. Karen knows everything, from which member just needs someone's listening ear, to which member prefers to do their donating on the down low. She can effortlessly put it all to use while making anyone and everyone feel welcome in these walls. Bernie thought Karen was a hothead and wouldn't last. And although I may at times agree with the hot-headed part, she has been part of Federation for literally a lifetime, longer than anyone, even Bernie himself. For many of us, there is no Federation without Karen. I've been thinking a lot of how to compress 36 years to 3 minutes, and I can't. I can't even compress the 6 years I've worked side by side with her into 3 minutes. I won't even try. What I will do is share with you in the simplest, yet definitely an adequate way I can, what she means to me. What Karen has taught me is so much greater than the statistics, history, and preferences of the community. I will forever be grateful for her patience with me as I developed an eye for our marketing, for the fact she has always had my back, even in the busiest times. Her willingness to stay here late, helping me go line by line through a publisher file that needs to be printed in, what was it, about 20 hours ago? I will admit I have depended heavily, not only for input on projects, but also for advice for the difficult situations and personality clashes that we all experience in life. When I came to the Federation, I was was excited about so many things. But one of the things I've appreciated the most was the one I didn't even know existed. Karen, in the last 6 years, you have been so much more than my boss. You have pushed me to be the best I can and have been my strongest supporter. You have listened patiently as I ugly cried in your office. You have brainstormed with me, letting me take the lead, and have given me endless opportunities to grow. You have infuriated me and made me laugh so hard I can't breathe. You have been my supervisor, my mentor, my confidant, and one of my most cherished friends. And the impact you have had on my life and the lives of this community is beyond measure. Now, since I want very many opportunities to embarrass you, I'm going to drag you up here now to do it. As many of you have seen or heard, we are currently working on doing an endowment fund in Karen's honor. There's still a ton of time. Karen did our community news from day one. She will tell us, but she did not get credit until 1984. So we found the original 1984. We are going to be listing Karen as editor emeritus in the community news from this day forward.
No, I was 8 months pregnant. I laid it out on a drafting table and I was stretching it. I was only 7 months pregnant. The baby came a month early. I blame the newspaper.
And our final piece, which is from the entire community. We reached out to people and asked for word of mouth. We understand we did not reach everybody, so there are note cards. We wanted to make sure you knew how much we appreciate you. So please accept this album with notes from your coworkers, your friends, and your family about how you have touched our lives.
Thank you. Toda Rabba. I am deeply touched and honored by the outpouring of love, the good wishes, the fond memories. 36 years is a long time. My son over here, my oldest Stephen, was 5 years old when I started. He's 41. When you look at that expanse of time, we've grown up together. I was 31 when I started. A lot of you have children. Stephen was your kid's counselor. He grew up at Through Camp Ideal. Both of my kids did. They have friends
the Jewish community. Our community, it's an honor for that as the endowment, because our community is everyone here, and I'm part of that, and I'm just so happy to have you as part of my life. As editor, I've never wanted to change the name of the newsletter. It was always Our Community. I'd write articles and it was in our community. And it's just so important that mishpacha, or a family. And that's what we need to continue to have. I can tell you stories about how the community has changed and grown. So many good memories. Camp Ideal, probably my kids went through camp. That was one of the big things that I did my first few years, was working with camp. Campaign, we've gone through all kinds of operations together. Operation Exodus, Operation Moses, Operation Solomon, to Operation Protective Edge more recently, Argentina now. And this community has always come forward and given greatly. This is a beautiful community to be in, and you should be so proud of how well you work together and are together in our diversities, and it's just such an amazing, amazing thing to be a part of such a big, beautiful community. So thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to continue our community through the endowment. I'm really humbled by your love and appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to everyone who would like to talk with Karen, she's planning on staying here. And please join us for a reception. Thank you so much.